Morality.
Mhm.
What makes right
Oh,
right and what makes wrong wrong? Who decides? It is it. Well, his grammar is a bit out. Who decides it is it?
yeah.
If, for instance, a society decides the morality, then can even blame the Nazis for the Holocaust? Well, first of all, morality is not didn't come from the skies. We humans collectively decides what's right and what's wrong, and how we do it. We There are a lot of different factors. I can talk for ages on the subject of morality, but right now I would just say that look, for example, if there's an island and there are like 5 or 10 people, they just popped into existence, and they're like, who am I, what am I, where am I, and started realizing that they're human beings, and the other people are just like them. So they're gonna, first of all, I think they're gonna kill each other, try to kill each other, hurt each other, and they're gonna get hurt themselves, and they're gonna figure out that, oh, all right, look, this isn't working. We should establish some rules, and not just narcissistic rules, but rules and ideas that would benefit all of us as
Mm.
a tribe. And this is how it came into being. And I subscribe to secular humanism. Sorry, I subscribe to secular humanism. Now, again, that ideology is also not entirely perfect, but that is the
Of
beauty
course.
of it. At least it's, in my opinion, the best moral structure which is present today, and
Mm.
it's constantly evolving as well.
Right.
And
The
as
way the
for, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Go
Yeah,
on,
but
go on.
just to finish the point, like about the Nazis. No, in secular humanism, sorry. Well, in secular humanism, what happens is we have to take care of our well-being, and not to jeopardize the well-being of other innocents. But this ideology actually fails in the case of Nazis, because they didn't consider the well-beings of other innocents. So the example of Nazis doesn't apply here.
The way I see the whole moral issue is the following: every sentient creature, they try to maximize their well-being and minimize harm, right? And we are no different from that. Like, we want to maximize our well-being and minimize harm, and we are by nature altruistic. We care and we are empathetic creatures, and
Hmm.
most of our moral codes are based on empathy and altruism. Like, we did
Hmm.
not survive in we did not survive in the animal kingdom because we were bigger in size or we were physically more stronger. We survived as a species because we were able to, you know we were able to survive collectively.
Hmm.
We were able to empathize with others, and we were able to create laws that would protect our well-being and the well-being of the next person living right next to us. So the way I see the best model to decide what's good and bad for any society and is the following: if an action causes demonstrable harm and the harm can be demonstrated, that would be considered something bad. And if an
Hmm.
action can be demonstrated to be good, and obviously this has to be based on verifiable and
Hmm.
demonstrable data as well. So based on data, if we can demonstrate that an action promotes well-being, that would be something good. And an action that does neither good nor bad
Hmm.
is, we leave it to personal choice. Now the thing about
Hmm.
the Nazis is that Hitler promoted that the Jews are harmful, which is why
Hmm.
they must be killed. Now, if you notice that this statement alone, which Nadir brought up yesterday in a discussion,
Hmm.
um, even in that statement alone, the harm factor is still there. Like, the fact that societies want to avoid harm is still there because Hitler is promoting that the Jews are harmful. Therefore, we must
Hmm.
avoid harm. But Hitler did not make that statement based on verifiable data. There is no peer-reviewed data Hitler used. There is no like demonstrable evidence of that claim. It was just an assertion. He had power. He was able to assert it, and he propagandized that through cartoons of some sort.
Hmm.
But if you used cartoons
Hmm.
but cartoons don't really dictate what is right and what's wrong.
Hmm.
Data and evidence does. So if people want to bring Nazism up, we would want to know what verifiable data Hitler used in order to conclude that the Jews are harmful. Because if that wasn't the case, which it wasn't, then Hitler
Of
was
course.
an immoral being,
Hmm.
and he was a criminal for killing so many people without any verifiable data. So it's different from what we are proposing. We are proposing that the data has to be demonstrated and it can be verified. It has to be peer reviewed,
Hmm. Agreed.
and the harm has to be demonstrated. Otherwise, you if there is no demonstrable harm or nor any demonstrable uh, good, then it's a neutral action that is then dependent upon people.
Hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. And just to add just one thing about the cartoons you said. Look, making cartoons freedom of expression, freedom of speech. I'm all for that. But it wasn't just the cartoons. I think it goes beyond that. The bigotry of Hitler and the racism. Those also are the two things which we should take into consideration in the case of the
Again,
Holocaust.
none of these things were done on verifiable data. They were
Yes, none of
just
yes,
done. They were
yes,
done because of personal wins.
yes.
That
That's
is
true.
not that is no ground to say that
Hmm.
okay, since the Nazis did it, therefore the society was moral. No, it's not what we're saying. And it would be a huge straw man to say that. It would be a huge
Yes,
straw man.
consciousness. Wow, it reminds me of Deepak Chopra. Generally speaking, when someone does something bad, there's a feeling of guilt. Where does that
Hmm.
feeling come from? It only supports the fact that God has instilled that feeling in us. It means I don't know where it comes from, therefore God. I don't
Again, the
know
God of the
what
gaps. There is
consciousness.
nothing to
Yes,
discuss
like
here.
I do not know
Yeah,
where what consciousness
again,
is entirely. I do not understand it quite well, and I don't know where it comes from. Therefore, God. It's God of class. This is a
consciousness.
classical God of the gaps fallacy.
Look, consciousness itself is a thing that has not been able to be fully explored yet.
Hmm.
So there is no reason to assert God in it.
Hmm.
Again, great. So we feel guilty because we have empathy and we have reasoning. Great. So
Hmm.
how does that prove God?
Hmm. It doesn't.
Doesn't.
Of course, it doesn't. And it's a consciousness. So yeah, consciousness is like just you said, as you said, awareness of the surroundings and being
Yeah.
sentient. So yeah, it's like it's not a settled science. We are still doing a lot of research on it and how it works, what the workings of it are. But yeah, we actually did figure out that it has to do something with the brain, the gray matter inside our skulls, and we can actually um use the MRI scanners to pinpoint how some parts of our brain work or think, or even how neurons retain memory, which is also a part of consciousness itself. So yeah, it's not like that we figured it out entirely, and that's where uh, theists would just insert God in the gaps of the of our knowledge. So yeah, it's just so shall we move to to the
Last
final
point. Yeah.
point? Yep,
Yeah.
the nature. Hmm. It is in a person's nature to call on to someone, especially when he or she is in trouble. Yusuf Islam once said, "When I was drowning, I said, if there is anyone out there, please help me. and I promise I will look for the truth sincerely. Now, the problem with point number 10 is, yes, human beings are do a lot of wishful thinking, and because a lot of them are indoctrinated, they actually hope that, yes, if they're in trouble, God, first of all, they wish that God is real, and they also wish that he comes down to save them. The problem is, truth doesn't care about what you wish for. All right, just wishing for something or hoping for something or wanting something to be true doesn't actually make it true. So that's all what I have to say about the last point. What are your thoughts on it, Rahat?
The way I see this is that human beings have a tendency to do many things.
Mm,
Just because human beings have a tendency to believe in something doesn't mean that that thing makes it automatically true. Like, I don't even know what to categorize this statement as.
hmm,
But anyways, just because human beings have a tendency to call out, in times of danger, doesn't mean that what they're calling out to is real. For
hmm,
example, I might call out my imaginary friend Tim, who I sincerely believe exists, you know,
hmm,
but
hmm.
does that make Tim real? It doesn't. A schizophrenic, for example, he might sincerely believe that there are
Yes.
voices, like
Hmm,
he's talking to some sort of supernatural being,
hmm.
when in his head, and in times of trouble he's calling out to that being,
Yes.
whatever that being is. But
Hmm.
does that mean that being really exists? It
No,
doesn't.
it doesn't.
Because if you like, it doesn't follow that God exists just because human beings have a tendency to do something. It's pretty clear to me that most of these arguments are based on logical fallacies, and logical fallacies is not logic. It's the opposite of logic. So,
Yes.
and to be honest, none of these arguments, they really do anything to conclude that therefore God exists.
Hmm.
Unless you have demonstrated the existence of God, none of these can. These are just, I would say, these are wishful thinking.
So I think we should wrap it up, and I think this is it for today.
Yeah, it was pretty good, guys.